Hello, thanks for joining us today.
In this podcast, we focus on making the Bible easy to understand with references to today's world. We hope that you stay with us and enjoy our interpretations.
Let's jump in and get started. Shall we?
And we are back. Welcome, everyone, to Day 9 of Bible in a Year, making it easier to understand. I am your host, John.
And I'm Stephanie. And honestly, John, today feels heavy. I mean, we are leaving the era of Abraham, who we've spent the last week getting to know, and we are diving headfirst into what might be the most dysfunctional family drama in the entire Bible.
Oh, it is absolutely a soap opera. If you thought Abraham and Sarah had drama with Hagar, wait until you meet the twins. We are talking about favoritism, identity theft, sibling rivalry that literally starts in the womb, and, my personal favorite, the most expensive bowl of soup in human history.
The soup. I have so many questions about the soup. But before we get to the menu, we need to set the scene. We are covering Genesis chapters 25 through 28 today. That is a lot of ground.
It is. We're going to see the death of Abraham, the rise of Isaac, the birth of Jacob and Esau, and the moment the family fractures completely. But Stephanie, we have to start where the text starts, with the barrenness.
Right. It feels like a pattern, doesn't it? Sarah was barren. Now Rebecca is barren. Why does this keep happening?
That's a great observation. It is a pattern. In the Bible, the chosen line, the lineage that leads to Jesus, is never a product of natural ease. It's always a miracle. It's God's way of saying, this nation isn't built on biology. It's built on promise. So, Isaac prays for Rebekah. The Hebrew word there is atar, which implies a pleading, an abundance of prayer. And God answers.
And she gets pregnant. But it's not a peaceful pregnancy, is it?
Not even close. The text says the children struggled within her, but that English word struggled is a bit polite. The Hebrew word is veitrotzetsu.
Vaitrozetsu. That sounds intense.
It is. It comes from a root meaning to crush or to smash. It's violent. It's like a civil war is happening inside her womb. It's so bad that Rebecca actually cries out to God. If it is thus, why is this happening to me?
I love that she asks that. It's such a real, human moment. God, if I'm blessed, why does it hurt this much?
Exactly. And God gives her an oracle, a prophecy that flips the entire world upside down. He says, 2 nations are in your womb, and the older shall serve the younger.
The older shall serve the younger. John, we have to pause here because I feel like we glaze over this. In their world, that's illegal, right? Or at least culturally impossible?
It's cultural heresy, Steph. In the ancient Near East, biology was destiny. If you were the firstborn male, you were the king of the castle. You got the Bakora. We'll talk about that word in a second. And you got the authority. For God to say, the older will serve the younger, is like God saying, I am hacking the system. He is choosing based on grace, not based on birth order. It's the first hint we get that the kingdom of God operates on completely different rules than the world.
So the boys are born, and the descriptions, they're vivid.
They are distinct, let's put it that way. First comes Esau. The text says he was red and hairy.
Hairy like a baby with a little fuzz?
No, hairy like a garment. The Hebrew word for Esau, Esau, is actually connected to the word asa, meaning made or complete. The idea is that he came out looking like a fully grown man. He was ready to go. He's the natural man. He's earthy. He's instinctual. He's physical.
Okay, so we have the hairy hunter, and then
comes Jacob, and he's holding on to Esau's heel.
which is where he gets his name, right?
Yes, Yaakov, Jacob, means he grasps the heel. Now, a lot of people translate this as deceiver or supplanter, and that's definitely part of the nuance. But literally, it means one who dogs the steps. He's the underdog. He's the one who is scraping and clawing to keep up.
It sets up their personalities perfectly. Esau is the guy who has everything handed to him by nature. He's strong. He's the firstborn. Jacob is the guy who has to fight for every inch.
Precisely. And that dynamic brings us to the infamous stew scene in Genesis 25. This is one of the most misunderstood stories in the Bible because on the surface, it just looks like a hungry guy buying lunch. But it is actually a tragedy of cosmic proportions.
Okay, set the scene for us.
Esau comes in from the field. He's been hunting. He's exhausted. The Hebrew word is if. It means faint, like he's running on fumes. And he sees Jacob cooking a stew.
And Jacob, being the opportunist,
Jacob sees an opening. Esau says, "Let me eat some of that red stuff, for I am exhausted."
red stuff? He doesn't even call it stew?
No. The Hebrew is ha-adam. It's almost animalistic. He's so driven by his appetite, by his senses, that he can't even articulate what he wants. He just sees the color. Give me the red stuff. That's actually why he gets the nickname Edom, which means red.
It reminds me of when my toddlers are hungry. They just point and grunt.
Exactly. It's infant behavior in a grown man's body. Now, Jacob says, "Sell me your birthright now." And Esau's response is fascinating. He says, "I am about to die. Of what use is a birthright to me?"
Was he really about to die? Or was he just hangry?
He was hangry. Unless he was stuck in the desert for weeks, missing one meal wasn't going to kill him. He's being dramatic. He's justifying his impulse. "I need this now, or I'm dead." That is the voice of addiction, the voice of the flesh. It prioritizes the immediate sensation over the long-term reality.
And the price? The birthright. You mentioned the word Bechorah earlier. What exactly did he just sell for a bowl of soup?
This is crucial, Stephanie. We have to distinguish between two things: the birthright, Bechorah, and the blessing, Barakah. They sound similar in Hebrew, which is a play on words, but they are different.
Okay, break it down.
The birthright, Bechorah, is the legal property right. It meant you got a double portion of the inheritance, twice the land, twice the money, twice the livestock. It made you the CEO of the family business.
So he sold his future fortune. For lentils?
For lentils. And research shows it was likely a red lentil and barley stew, maybe seasoned with cumin or sumac, which is delicious, sure, but it's not worth a multi-million-dollar estate.
No soup is that good.
But here's the kicker, Steph. The text says at the end, "Thus Esau despised his birthright." He didn't just make a bad financial deal. He treated his heritage, the promises God gave to Abraham, the covenant, the legacy, as if it was trash. He valued a 15-minute full stomach more than being the carrier of God's promise.
That hits home. It's easy to judge him, but how often do we trade something long-term, like our integrity, or our health, or our relationships, for something that feels good for 5 minutes?
That is the question of the day. Let's continue after the break. And we are back. Stephanie, before the break, we talked about Esau selling his birthright for a bowl of soup. And I know, for a lot of our listeners, especially our Gen Z and millennial friends, it's hard to grasp just how colossal of a mistake this was.
Right. It feels like a fable. The guy who sold his crown for a sandwich. It doesn't feel real.
So, I want to use a modern mirror to make this stick. I want to tell you the story of Laszlo Hanyecz.
Laszlo Hanyecz. I don't think I know him. Is he a theologian?
No. He is a computer programmer. And he is the main character of a holiday called Bitcoin Pizza Day.
Okay. I'm listening.
The date is May 22nd, 2010. Bitcoin is brand new. Nobody knows if it's actually worth anything. It's just internet money for nerds. Laszlo is hungry. So he goes on a forum and posts, "I'll pay 10,000 Bitcoins for a couple of pizzas. Like maybe 2 large ones, so I have some left over for the next day."
10,000 Bitcoins?
10,000. At the time, those coins were worth about $41. So a guy takes him up on the offer, orders him 2 Papa John's pizzas, and Laszlo sends him the 10,000 Bitcoin.
Oh no. I know where this is going.
You know exactly where this is going. Today, with Bitcoin trading around $60,000 to $70,000 per coin, those 2 pizzas cost him roughly $700 million.
700 million? For Papa John's?
For Papa John's. Not even the gourmet stuff.
Oh my gosh. I feel sick just hearing that.
That is Esau. Esau is the Bitcoin pizza guy of the Bible. He held an asset, his birthright, that possessed infinite future value. It was the key to the covenant. It was the stock option in God's kingdom. But because he was famished, because he lived entirely in the now, he couldn't see the future value. He traded hundreds of millions of dollars of spiritual and material legacy for a warm lunch.
That is... wow. That makes it so much more tragic. It wasn't just that he was hungry, it's that he had no concept of worth.
Exactly. The Bible calls this being profane. In Hebrews 12, the New Testament calls Esau a profane person. That word doesn't mean he cursed a lot. It means he was flat. He had no spiritual depth. He couldn't distinguish between the holy, the birthright, and the common, the soup. To him, everything was just stuff. I'm hungry. Feed me. I'm tired. Let me sleep. He was a slave to his immediate biology.
That is such a warning for us. We live in a culture that is obsessed with now. Same-day shipping, instant downloads, fast food. We are trained to be Esau's.
We are. We are trained to despise waiting. We are trained to despise the long game.
So, if the birthright was the Bitcoin, the financial legal asset, what is the blessing? Because that comes up later in chapter 27.
Great distinction. So Esau sold the Bechorah, birthright, in chapter 25. But later, in chapter 27, Jacob steals the Barakah, blessing. Think of the birthright as the hardware, the land, the money, the title. Think of the blessing as the software, the spiritual operating system, the ability to govern, the divine favor, the God connection that makes the hardware work.
So Jacob bought the hardware for a bowl of soup.
And later, he steals the software password from his dad's computer.
Oh, Jacob. He really is a hacker.
He is. He is the ultimate grinder. He hacks the system. And that brings us to Genesis 26, which is this weird interlude about Isaac and wells. Most people skip this chapter because it feels boring, but it's actually the key to understanding Isaac.
Yeah, Isaac. We haven't talked much about him. He seems passive?
He is very passive. In fact, chapter 26 is the only chapter in the Bible dedicated solely to Isaac. In this chapter, there's a famine. Isaac goes to Gerar, which is Philistine territory. And guess what he does?
Let me guess. He tells everyone his beautiful wife is his sister?
Bingo. Factory settings. Stephanie.
Factory settings?
It's like when you inherit a phone or a laptop from your parents, and it still has all their old settings and glitches. Isaac is running Abraham 1.0. He repeats his father's specific sin. Abraham lied about Sarah being his sister out of fear. Isaac lies about Rebekah being his sister out of fear. It's generational trauma or generational sin playing out in real time.
It's scary how easily we pick up our parents' dysfunctions.
It is. But then Isaac does something redemptive. The Philistines, out of envy, have stopped up the wells that Abraham dug.
Why would they do that? Water is life in the desert. Stopping a well is like burning down a house.
It's eco-terrorism. It's an act of war. By filling the wells with earth, they are erasing Abraham's history. They are saying, you were never here. It's deplatforming the patriarch. So Isaac has a choice. He could fight them, or he could dig new wells. Instead, the text says he redug the wells of his father and called them by the same names.
That's significant. He's honoring the legacy.
He is. He's doing covenant maintenance. He's going back to the source, and the names tell a story. First, he digs a well, and the herdsmen fight him for it. He calls it Esek, which means contention or argument. He moves on, digs another. They fight again. He calls it Sitna.
Sitna. That sounds like...
It sounds like Satan. It means accusation or hatred.
Yikes. So he's got a well of argument and a well of hatred.
Exactly. And notice what he does. He doesn't stay there and fight. He doesn't sue them. He moves on. He digs a third well. And this time, nobody fights. He calls it Rehoboth.
Rehoboth. I see that name on churches sometimes. What does it mean?
It means broad places or room. He says, now the Lord has made room for us. I love this for the listener who feels stuck in conflict. Sometimes you have to walk away from the well of argument. You have to walk away from the well of hatred. You have to keep digging until you find your Rehoboth, the place where God gives you peace.
That is beautiful. Stop fighting for the toxic water.
Right. But speaking of toxic, we have to talk about Genesis 27, the heist. But first, we need to have a short break. We will be right back. All right, grab your popcorn, folks. This is Ocean's 11 meets Ancient Near East, Genesis 27. Isaac is old. He's blind, and he thinks he is dying.
Is he dying?
No, he actually lives for like another 40 years, but he feels like he's dying. He's having a midlife or end-of-life crisis, and he calls Esau in.
His favorite.
His favorite. The text is brutal about this. Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game. It's transactional love. I love you because you feed me. That is a recipe for disaster. He tells Esau, go hunt some game and make me that savory food I love so that I may bless you before I die.
Okay, wait. Isaac knows the prophecy, right? He knows God said, the older shall serve the younger.
He absolutely knows. Rebekah would have told him.
So, is Isaac trying to rebel against God?
It looks that way. He is trying to sneak the blessing to Esau before God, or Rebekah, notices. He's trying to force his will over God's will. He wants to give the software, the blessing, to the guy who already sold the hardware, the birthright.
But Rebekah is listening.
Rebekah is always listening. She is the spy master of the tent. She hears the plan, and she springs into action. She tells Jacob, go get me 2 goats. I'm going to make the stew. You're going to take it to your dad and get the blessing.
And Jacob, does he have a moral objection?
Not really. His objection is purely practical. He says, Mom, Esau is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. If Dad touches me, I'm busted. I'll get a curse instead of a blessing. Jacob isn't worried about lying. He's worried about getting caught.
So Rebekah comes up with the costume.
The costume is genius and gross. She puts Esau's best clothes on Jacob. These are clothes that probably smell like the campfire, the field, the sweat of the hunt. And then she puts goatskins on his hands and the smooth part of his neck.
Goatskins? John, surely a father can tell the difference between his son's skin and a goat?
You would think. But remember, Isaac is old, blind, and this is key. He is spiritually dull. He is being led by his appetite. When you are driven by your belly, your discernment goes out the window. So Jacob goes in. And this interaction is so tense. The dialogue is incredible. Isaac asks, who are you? Jacob says, I am Esau, your firstborn. That is a bold-faced lie.
And Isaac is suspicious.
He is. He asks, how did you find the game so quickly? And Jacob, oh man, Jacob drags God into the lie. He says, because the Lord your God granted me success.
Oof. Using God's name to cover your sin. That is next-level deception.
It is. And Isaac is still not convinced. He says, come near, that I may feel you. And this is the verse that haunts me. Genesis 27, verse 22. Isaac touches the goatskins and says, the voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau.
The voice is Jacob. The hands are Esau. That feels like it has a deeper meaning.
It does. In Hebrew, kol, voice, represents the inner person, the spirit, the truth. Yadayim, hands, represent the outer person, the action, the doing. Isaac is facing a cognitive dissonance. His spirit, hearing, is telling him, this is Jacob, this is the wrong son. But his flesh, touch, is telling him, this is Esau, this is the hairy one. And because Isaac is a man of the flesh, he trusts his touch over his hearing. He trusts the sensory data over the relational data.
Wow. So he blesses him.
He smells his clothes, the smell of the field, and he unleashes the blessing. God, give thee of the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth. Let people serve thee and nations bow down to thee. Stephanie, this is the sent email moment.
The sent email?
In the ancient world, a blessing wasn't just a prayer like, I hope you have a nice day. It was a legal, performative speech act. It's like hitting send on a wire transfer of millions of dollars. Once the words leave your mouth, they execute. You cannot pull them back. When Esau comes in later and the deception is revealed, the text says Isaac trembled very exceedingly.
Because he realized he'd been tricked?
Yes, but more than that. He trembled because he realized God had overruled him. He tried to give the blessing to Esau, but God ensured it went to Jacob. Isaac realizes he has been fighting God, and God won. That's why when Esau begs for the blessing, Isaac says, I have blessed him, yea, and he shall be blessed. He accepts the result. He realizes, okay, God, you wanted Jacob? You got Jacob.
And Esau. Esau's reaction is heartbreaking. Bless me, even me also, O my father. He weeps aloud.
It is heartbreaking, and we should feel for him. He is the victim of a fraud. But we also have to remember chapter 25. He is crying over the loss of the blessing, the software, for the family business he already sold for a bowl of soup. He wants the privilege of the covenant without the responsibility of the birthright. He wants the glory without the burden.
So Isaac gives him something?
He gives him an anti-blessing. The English translations try to make it sound nice, but the Hebrew preposition min can mean away from. He essentially says, "Behold, away from the fatness of the earth shall be your dwelling. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother." It's a confirmation of the prophecy. The older shall serve the younger.
This destroys the family, doesn't it?
Completely. Esau vows to kill Jacob as soon as Isaac dies. Rebekah hears it, and she tells Jacob to run. She says, "Flee to my brother Laban in Haran." She thinks it will be for a few days.
But it's not a few days.
It's 20 years. And Stephanie, here's the tragedy of Rebekah. She orchestrated this whole thing to get the blessing for her favorite son. It worked, but she never sees Jacob again. She dies before he comes back. She paid for the blessing with her relationship with her son.
That is a heavy price.
It is. And as we close out today's reading in Genesis 28, we see Jacob leaving. He's got the blessing. He's got the birthright, but he has nothing else. He is alone, he is broke, and he is running for his life. He has the software of Abraham, but he has to go into exile to learn how to use it.
And that is where we leave him? On the road?
On the road. A fugitive with a promise.
What's the takeaway for us today, John? This is such a messy story.
The takeaway is that God's plan is robust. It survived Abraham's fear. It survived Isaac's passivity. It survived Rebekah's manipulation. It survived Jacob's deception. And it survived Esau's indifference. God's promise is like a freight train. You can throw obstacles on the track. You can try to derail it, but it is coming through. For the listener today, you might come from a messy family. You might have a past full of red stew moments where you sold out cheap. You might have redug wells of contention. But if you hold on to the heel of God, if you refuse to let go, he can work with you. He is the God of Jacob, which means he is the God of the messy, striving, imperfect people.
I love that. He's the God of the mess. Thank you for unpacking all of that, John. That Bitcoin pizza analogy is going to stick with me forever.
Don't sell your birthright for pizza, guys.
See you tomorrow for day 10.
See you then.
That brings us to the end of today's podcast. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
We really appreciate you listening in and walking through these chapters with us.
Before you go, please take a second to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. We'd love to hear how these modern mirrors are helping you see the text differently.
See you tomorrow for another exciting deep dive into the Word of the Lord. God bless.